The moment you stop being busy, something feels wrong. Not peaceful, not relieving, wrong. Like you've forgotten something important, like you're falling behind without even moving. And then it starts, that quiet voice in your head. You're wasting time. Even when there's nothing you need to do, you feel like you're doing something wrong. So you reach for your phone, open another tab, find something, anything, to stay in motion. Because stillness doesn't feel safe anymore. It feels like failure. But that feeling, it's not natural, and it's definitely not yours. It's something that's been built into you, slowly, invisibly, over time. And today, we're going to take it apart. Because once you see where this feeling comes from, you'll realize something unsettling. You were never meant to earn your right to exist.
It didn't start with you, that feeling that you always need to be doing something, that your time has to be used, or it's being wasted. It was built long before you were born. There was a time when work ended, not because a clock said so, but because the task was done. The field was plowed, the bread was baked, the sun went down, and so did you. No guilt, no overthinking, no voice in your head asking, what now? But then, something changed. Not suddenly, not violently, but permanently. Time stopped being something you lived in and became something you had to account for. Every hour, every minute, every second. You weren't paid for what you finished anymore. You were paid for how long you stayed. And that shift, it did something deeper than change work. It changed how you see yourself. Because when your time becomes money, your existence starts to feel like something that needs to be justified. And if you're not producing, then what are you worth?
That shift from working to finish a task to working by the hour didn't just change how people worked. It changed how you measure yourself. Because now your worth has a number. How much you get done, how fast you do it, how you compare to everyone else. And without realizing it, you start asking a dangerous question. What am I worth if I'm not producing? Because once time becomes money, every unused moment starts to feel like a loss, not just of time, but of value. And that's when rest starts feeling like rest and starts feeling like guilt. It's a quiet afternoon. No notifications, no deadlines, nothing urgent waiting for you. For a moment, everything is still. And then you open your phone, not because you need to, but because you don't know what else to do with the silence. You scroll, refresh, open an app, then another, then back again. Nothing you're looking for, just something to fill the space. Because the moment you stop, your mind starts asking questions. Shouldn't I be doing something right now? Other people are probably being productive. Am I wasting this time? And suddenly, rest doesn't feel like rest anymore. It feels like you're doing something wrong, like you're behind, even though no one is chasing you. This didn't stay in factories. It followed you home, quietly, gradually, until it became the way you think. Because now, there's a part of you that's always running, always measuring, always asking, is this worth my time? Even when you're resting, something in you is still working, tracking, evaluating, judging, like an invisible system in the background, turning every moment into something that has to be earned. And if it isn't productive, it doesn't just feel useless, it feels wrong. At some point, something changed again. The system didn't need to control you anymore, because you started doing it yourself. No one is watching you, no boss, no manager, no one keeping score. And yet, you still feel watched, judged, measured by something inside you. There's a voice now, tracking how you spend your time, questioning every pause, turning even rest into something that needs permission. You don't need pressure from the outside anymore, because it's already been built into you. You became the one who pushes, the one who doubts, the one who never lets you fully stop. You became your own boss, and unlike a real one, you never clock out. At some point, this stops being external. It stops being about deadlines or expectations, and it becomes something else, a belief. Because now, you don't just work because you have to. You work because stopping feels wrong, like you're doing something you shouldn't, like you're falling short of who you're supposed to be. And that's the shift most people don't notice, when productivity stops being a requirement and starts feeling like a moral obligation. It's late. You've been staring at the same page for the last 10 minutes, not reading, not understanding, just staring. Your eyes burn, your thoughts feel slow, Even simple sentences don't make sense anymore. You know you're done. You should close the laptop, get some sleep, try again tomorrow. But you don't. Instead, you keep going, rereading the same line, highlighting things you won't remember, pretending you're still being productive. Because stopping right now feels worse than continuing. Like if you stop, it all meant nothing. Like if you rest, you failed. At some point, this stopped being about work and started becoming about who you are. Because now, being busy doesn't just mean you have things to do. It feels like you're disciplined, focused, on track. And being productive, that feels like proof that you're doing something with your life, that you matter, that you're enough. But the moment you're not, something shifts. Doing nothing doesn't feel neutral anymore. It feels like laziness, like weakness, like there's something wrong with you. And that's the part most people never question. Not that we value work, but that we use it to decide our own worth. The hardest person you'll ever work for is yourself. Not the version you show the world, the one inside your head, the one that never relaxes, never switches off, never says, that's enough. It's always there, watching, asking, what are you doing right now? Is this actually useful? Could you be doing something better? And the more you listen to it, the more it starts to sound like truth. Not a voice, not a pressure, but a standard you're supposed to live up to. And that's what makes it so exhausting. You're not being forced. You're agreeing. You wake up early, no alarms, no urgency, nothing you have to do. You told yourself last night, tomorrow, I'll rest. But a few minutes pass, and something starts to feel off, too quiet, too open. So you reach for your phone, check the time, start thinking, I should probably do something with this day. And suddenly, you're making a list, setting small goals, finding things to fill the space. Not because you need to, but because doing nothing feels uncomfortable. Like you're wasting something, like this time is supposed to mean more. And that's the strange part. No one asked you to do any of this. So why does an empty day feel like a missed opportunity? For what? What feels like ambition doesn't always start that way, because over time, it turns into something else, something quieter, more automatic, a belief you don't even question anymore, that your value has to be proven, that your time has to be justified, that just being isn't enough. And once that belief settles in, something shifts, because now if you're not producing, if you're not improving, not moving, not doing something measurable, it doesn't just feel unproductive. It feels like you're falling short of being anything at all. It doesn't stop anymore, not when you leave work, not when you sit down to rest, not even when you're alone. Because now, the world can reach you anytime. A message, an email, a notification lighting up your screen in the dark. And even when nothing comes in, you still check, out of habit, out of reflex, out of that quiet feeling that you might be missing something. Because you're always connected, always available, always one tap away from doing something. And that's the shift. Work didn't just follow you home, it moved into your pocket, which means you're never really off. It's not just that you can work anytime now, it's that you feel like you probably should. Even in your free time, there's this quiet awareness that you could be doing something useful, something productive, something that moves you forward. And once that thought enters your mind, rest stops feeling complete, because it's no longer just rest. It's time you're choosing not to use. And that's where the pressure begins. Not from what you're doing, but from everything you could be doing instead. You're in bed, lights off, room quiet. Your body is ready to sleep, but your mind won't let you. Not with fear, not with anxiety, but with reminders. That email you didn't send, that task you pushed to tomorrow, that thing you could have finished if you tried a little harder. They replay, quietly but persistently, one after another, as if your mind is keeping a list, making sure nothing goes unaccounted for. You try to relax, but instead of rest, it feels like you're falling behind in the dark. Like this moment is time you'll have to make up for later. Your brain was never meant to run nonstop. It was built for rhythm, for cycles, for moments of focus and moments of release. Because when you're actively working, solving problems, concentrating, pushing forward, one part of your mind takes over. But there's another part, quieter, less obvious, the part that processes what you've experienced, that makes connections, that reflects, understands, and integrates. And here's the catch. That part doesn't activate when you're busy. It activates when you stop, when your mind is allowed to wander,
when you're not trying to be productive, when nothing is demanding your attention. In other words, the part of your brain that helps you make sense of your life only works when you're doing nothing.
What we call doing nothing isn't nothing at all. It's the part of your life that doesn't look productive, but quietly holds everything together. It's when your mind starts connecting things you didn't notice before, when emotions you ignored begin to settle, when thoughts finally stop competing and start making sense. Because your brain doesn't just work when you're focused, it also works when you're still. And without that stillness, something starts to break down. Not all at once, slowly, quietly. You don't feel more productive. You feel scattered, disconnected, like parts of you are constantly running, but never fully coming together. There's something strange about your mind. The clearest thoughts rarely come when you're trying to think. They show up later, in the shower, on a quiet walk, when you're not focused on anything in particular. Not when you're searching for answers, but when you've stopped looking for them. Because in those moments, your mind isn't performing. It isn't optimizing. It isn't trying to be useful. It's just processing, quietly connecting things you didn't realize were connected. And maybe that's the part we forget, that clarity doesn't always come from effort. Sometimes it comes from letting go of it, from the moments where you stop trying to become something and just exist. When everything you do has to mean something, even your quiet moments start to feel wrong. Sitting still doesn't feel like rest anymore. It feels like you're falling behind something invisible. So you keep yourself slightly occupied, mentally busy, always thinking ahead, always preparing for what comes next. And without noticing, silence starts to feel uncomfortable. Stillness feels unnatural, like there's something you should be doing that can't quite name. And slowly, you stop recognizing yourself outside of usefulness, not because you changed overnight, but because you never really stopped to exist without a purpose. Maybe we've misunderstood something fundamental. Maybe doing nothing was never the problem, because in a world that constantly asks you to become more, to do more, to prove more, silence isn't empty, it's rare. It's the only space where you're not performing, not measuring, not becoming anything, just being. And maybe that's what we lost. Not time, but presence. So maybe doing nothing isn't a waste of time. Maybe it's the only moment where you return to yourself. We're taught, almost silently, that time is something to manage, something to optimize, to structure, to extract the most from, as if every moment has to justify itself by what it produces. But not everything that matters works like that. Some things in life don't show up in output. They show up in how you feel, how you think, how you return to yourself after everything goes quiet. Because not all value can be measured. Some value is experienced, and you only notice it when you stop trying to turn everything into something useful. When you rest without trying to earn it. When you sit in silence without needing a reason. When you let a moment exist without turning it into something useful, something changes. You stop treating time like something you have to justify. And slowly, you remember what it feels like to just be here, not improving, not optimizing, not becoming anything, just existing. And in that space, you're not wasting time, you're returning it to yourself. Imagine this. You wake up, and for the first time in a long time, nothing is asking anything from you. No urgency pulling you forward, no pressure sitting in the back of your mind. You make tea, you sit by a window, and you let the world move without trying to keep up with it. And something feels different. Not because everything is perfect, but because nothing is demanding that you become anything right now. The weight is gone, the noise has softened, and you realize you're not behind. You were just never meant to live like that in the first place. And in that quiet understanding, you don't just feel calm, you feel present, here, finally, here. You were never meant to live like a system that has to justify itself. Not every second needs to be earned. Not every moment needs to prove its value. Before everything became measurable, before life turned into something to optimize, before you started watching yourself like a project, you were simply here. No explanation, no performance, no condition attached to your worth. And maybe that part of you didn't disappear. Maybe it just got buried under everything you were told you had to become. So when you find yourself doing nothing, don't treat it like a mistake. Don't rush to turn it into something productive. Just let it be what it is. Because in a world that turned existence into output, the quiet act of simply being here isn't nothing. it's resistance.
If this video resonated with you, you're not alone in feeling this way. Sometimes we don't even realize how much pressure we've been carrying until we finally step back and see it clearly. If you found value in this perspective, consider subscribing for more videos that explore the mind, behavior, and the quiet patterns shaping how we live. And if this message reminded you of something in your own life, take a moment today to slow down just a little. Thank you for watching.